The notification arrived 72 hours before Christmas Eve. I had to read it 3 times before the words stopped blurring together. Skip the trip this season. Don't drive up. That was it. No explanation, no heated argument. Just a cold, flat line from my own father. It's better for everyone if you stay put. I remember staring at the glow of my screen for what felt like an hour. 7 years in the service, 2 combat tours, a graveyard of missed Thanksgivings and forgotten birthdays. And this was finally supposed to be the holiday I made it back to the family table. Instead, my dad was slamming the door before I even knocked. My name is Rachel Moore, and in that moment, something cracked open I didn't yet understand. I fired back one word. Fine. Then I powered the phone down and buried myself in sleep. 5 days slid by in a numb crawl. No calls, no check-ins, no apology texts. Christmas morning arrived raw and overcast. When I finally tapped my screen back to life, it erupted with notifications. 11 missed calls. My mom, my younger brother, an aunt, even my 80-year-old grandmother, but the one that froze my blood wasn't from family. It was the final entry, a number I didn't recognize. The voicemail preview flashed 2 words, legal office. And when I pressed play, the voice on the other end said something that stopped my heart. Ms. Moore, we need to discuss your father's affairs. I listened to the recording twice before dialing back. A receptionist picked up on the first ring. Handwritten Associates. This is Rachel Moore, I said, keeping my voice even. You left me a message this morning. A short pause. Oh, Ms. Moore, yes, the receptionist said, her tone shifting heavier. I've been trying to locate you. My throat tightened. Is this about my father? Yes, that single syllable landed like a stone. For a second, I expected her to explain why my dad had suddenly uninvited me from Christmas. Instead, she said something entirely different. Your father left instructions that I should reach out if specific events took place. I lowered myself onto the edge of my mattress. What events? Another pause. Miss Moore, your father passed away 3 days ago. The room went completely hollow. 3 days. Exactly when the text telling me to stay away had arrived. That makes no sense, I whispered. The message came from his phone. Yes, the receptionist said carefully. And that's precisely why I needed to speak with you. Ice flooded my stomach. What do you mean? She cleared her throat. Your father prepared a legal letter that specifically references that message. I gripped the phone harder. What did it say? The words came out measured. If you received a message telling you not to come home, you should know your father did not send it. The text arrived after he was gone. For a long moment, I couldn't form a response. So someone else typed that message? I finally asked. Yes, Miss, Hendricks replied. Your father was very explicit. If you got a text from his phone telling you to stay away, you were to contact my office immediately. My pulse hammered. Why? Another pause. Because it would mean someone in that house had access to his device after his death. The sentence hung in the winter air. Wait, I said slowly. You just told me he died 3 days ago. That's correct. And the message was sent 3 days ago? Yes. My thoughts raced. My father had been alive our last conversation, a short phone call 2 weeks earlier, where he asked what time my train arrived. He sounded excited. Proud, now a lawyer was telling me the message that kept me away had been sent from a dead man's phone. Ms. Moore, the receptionist said softly, there's more. I clutched the phone until my knuckles ached. What? Your father instructed that you not discuss any of this with your family until you visit his office in person. Why? Her answer came low because according to his will, you are the sole inheritor of the house. The silence that followed was suffocating because suddenly the message made a terrible kind of sense. I drove to Handwritten Associates the next morning. The whole trip felt like wading through a dream, my brain struggling to catch up with what my gut already knew. Someone had used my father's phone after his death. Someone inside that house. When I walked into the law office, Ms. Hendricks stood and offered a quiet handshake. "I'm deeply sorry for your loss, Rachel. Thank you," I murmured. She gestured to a chair, then she placed a sealed envelope on the desk between us. "Your father asked that this be given to you if the message was sent." My fingers felt numb as I opened it. Inside a handwritten letter. My father's unmistakable scrawl, "Rachel," it began. "If you're reading this, someone in the house tried to push you away." My throat closed up. I suspected this might happen after my diagnosis. "The property and the land are legally yours, not your brother's, not anyone else's." I looked up slowly. "My brother lives with him," I said. Miss Hendricks nodded. "Yes," I looked back at the letter. "If they send that message, it means they're afraid you'll show up before the will is read." A chill ran through me because suddenly I knew exactly why my family had called 11 times that morning. They thought I wasn't coming. Ms. Hendricks opened another folder and slid it across the desk. The official documents. My father's last will. I scanned the pages slowly, even though the letter had already told me the truth. The house, the land, the savings account, everything under my name alone, not split with my brother, not divided equally, just me. "That's a heavy load," I said quietly. Miss Hendricks nodded. "Your father amended the will 8 months ago. Why didn't he tell anyone?" "He didn't want conflict while he was alive," the lawyer replied. "But he was very specific about one thing." I looked up. "He believed someone in the house might try to prevent you from coming home after his death." My chest tightened again. "Did he say who?" Miss Hendricks shook her head. "No, but he asked me to log the phone activity from the day he passed." She turned her computer screen toward me. A call log appeared. Several missed calls from neighbors. One from the hospital. Then one outgoing text sent from my father's phone to me. "Skip the trip this season. Don't drive up." The timestamp sat directly beneath it. 2 hours after the hospital recorded his time of death. I stared at the screen. Who had access to his phone? Ms. Hendricks closed the folder slowly. "Your brother was the one who reported the death." The drive to my father's house felt longer than any overseas convoy I'd ever ridden in. Every mile carried the same question: why? My brother Jake had lived with Dad for 3 years. After losing his job, he'd said he needed time to get back on his feet. Dad never complained. He just helped. When I pulled into the driveway, the house looked exactly the same. The big sycamore. The porch light Dad always forgot to kill. But something felt different. Quiet in a wrong way. Jake opened the front door before I could knock. For 1 second, he looked genuinely stunned. "Rachel," he said, like he'd seen a ghost. "I thought you weren't coming." I stepped inside slowly. That's what the message said. His face tightened. "Yeah, Dad told me he texted you that." I didn't respond because now I knew something he didn't realize. Dad had been dead when that message was sent. Jake rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. "Look, Rach, it's been a brutal few days." I glanced around the living room. Nothing had changed except one thing. Dad's phone sat on the coffee table. Charging, I picked it up slowly. Funny thing, I said quietly. The lawyer showed me the phone records. Jake's color drained instantly. He didn't answer right away. His eyes stayed locked on the phone in my hand like it had suddenly turned dangerous. What records? He asked carefully. I turned the phone over, studying the cracked case my dad had refused to replace for years. The message telling me not to come home, I said. It was sent 2 hours after the hospital recorded Dad's time of death. The room went dead silent. Jake's jaw tightened. You're saying I sent it? He snapped. I'm saying Dad didn't. For a second, anger flashed across his face. Then something else replaced it. Fear. He saw the will and panicked. You don't understand how things were here, he muttered. I looked at him. Then explain it. He ran both hands through his hair, pacing across the living room. You were never here, he said suddenly. You don't know what it was like watching him choose you for everything. Choose me. The words felt absurd. I'd been overseas for most of the last decade. He left the house to you, Jake continued bitterly. After everything I did for him. The confession sat between us like a live wire. You read the will, I said. He didn't answer because we both knew the truth now. Jake had seen the will, and he thought keeping me away would buy him time to change things. But there was one thing he hadn't expected. I had come home anyway. Jake sank onto the couch like the fight had been ripped out of him. I just needed time, he said quietly. Time for what? I asked. He rubbed his face with both hands. To figure something out. To talk to a lawyer. Maybe contest the will. I stood there holding Dad's phone, listening to the same brother I used to build forts with, try to explain why he had lied to me the day our father died. You thought if I stayed away long enough, I said slowly, you could change everything. Jake didn't deny it. The silence between us was heavy. Finally, he spoke again. I took care of him for 3 years, he said. Every doctor visit, every bad day, every night he couldn't sleep. There was pain in his voice, real pain. I wasn't here, I admitted quietly. No, he said bitterly. You're the hero daughter serving overseas while I watched him fade. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I placed Dad's phone back on the coffee table. The house is still legally mine, I said calmly. Jake nodded without looking up. But Dad also left something else, I continued. What? I looked around the room. We had both grown up in this family. And I wasn't going to let a single text message destroy the last thing he left us.